Hello and welcome. We are here with Marissa, who was just evicted not even 5 minutes ago at the Final Four. So, Marissa, how are you feeling right now in this moment?
Feeling okay. I thought I had a good chance at making it to the finale, but I am also not surprised because I do think that they probably made a good decision in evicting me, but I do think that there's pros and cons to keeping me as well. So a mix of feelings, but um, ultimately, not too bad, I would say. So.
So, why do you think then that they chose, or I should just say, not even they, just Jenny, why do you think that Jenny chose to evict you over Taisha? What do you think came into play there?
I think Jenny wants to go to final two with LJ. I think she has been close with him this whole time, and they've been playing a pretty honest, straightforward game with each other. I think Taisha has been playing a pretty honest, straightforward game as well. So that seems to be really important to Jenny, and so she chose that. And I do think that Jenny probably ultimately wants to go to final two with LJ because they seem pretty close. So that's what I think.
And in terms of, you mentioned honestly, an honest, straightforward game. So talking about your game for a second, you were not afraid to kind of play both sides, tell people what they wanted to hear, vote how you wanted. It was a very bold way to play. And there was a point in the game where it seemed like things were catching up to you and you had to kind of own a little bit of what you had been doing. So how do you think, or I guess my first question, and then I can get to my second one. My first one is, was that the strategy that you came in with, or did you feel that that was how you had to play because of circumstances?
Yeah, it's not the strategy I came in with ultimately. I felt like, or I wanted to play an under the radar game, and I felt like that would be my best game coming into it. But under the circumstances, with being the first person singled out from their duo, I felt like in order to get further in the game, I had to play both sides and ride the middle pretty hard. So I felt like I had to up my game in terms of really playing the game strategically and some white lies and promises both ways with alliances, which people used for a while. It wasn't just me. So to my credit, they made me play this way. So
So, with that said,
mhm.
as I mentioned, there was a time in this game where it seemed like people were kind of giving you a little bit of heat. You got some public heat for playing that way, as you said, that they made you play. Um, did you think in that moment that maybe you would be in a lot of danger? Were you like, oh God, my game is done? Like, what were you thinking in that moment?
No, just because there was still a good amount of people left, and I had proved loyalty in different ways to both sides and proved that I could be useful to both sides in different ways. So I knew that I could still be useful to them, but I knew that was also a guilt tactic to gaslight me for playing the game. So I knew there would be sympathy either way as well, and people I could still play with.
Let's talk about you and Chris for a bit, because obviously, you guys came into this game, and I'm sure you really didn't. I mean, you had some sort of idea because of Chris of what you were getting yourself into, but I'm sure even what you expected was a little bit different than what the reality was. So, my first question in this section of it all is, what did you expect coming in, and was this what you expected, or did it kind of shock you in certain ways?
It's kind of what I expected. The main thing that surprised me was how fast paced the game started off, like how quickly people built alliances and there were power structures in place like almost immediately. So that's what took me the most off guard because this was in the org world a longer term game, but it seemed like people got off building alliances pretty quickly off the bat, and that ultimately hurt Chris and I. So
Yeah, you and Chris were in some danger early on, obviously, becoming the first duo to really be split up. So, did you think coming in that you guys were going to make it far together? Did you think you'd work well together? Did you fear that you might kind of have differing personalities? What was your perception coming in? What did you think?
I would say yes to all of the above. I think our style plays very complementary to each other, like in that it's not totally similar to each other. Chris is very like out there and quick to react, and I'm more laid back and chill, and that might draw people in a little bit more easily to me, but I could see his extroverted approach drawing in people more easily too. So I think that our styles were kind of opposite each other and very complementary. So it could work very well under the right circumstances, but it could also be to our detriment. So like there were times where Chris had more trust in people, and I knew it wasn't mutually beneficial for me. So yeah, I feel like it could have taken us pretty far under the right circumstances, but this wasn't it. But that's okay.
In being the first duo that was split up, did you, I mean, I guess in that moment, if you could take yourself back to way, way, way earlier in the game, how were you feeling being the first person to be alone? Was it somewhat of a relief to be able to play independently? Did you feel nervous to be on your own? What were you feeling in that moment?
Um, yeah, I was mostly nervous, but Chris and I had set up a plan, and um, I we had worked out who to align myself with in that moment. And we both talked through how, at that point in the game, being the first single, I would probably be used more as a number. And people would not target me as much because they'd probably start targeting the duos at that point. So I was a little nervous, but ultimately not too worried. So.
And I mean, you adapted pretty well from what we saw, and it eventually seemingly got to this point where by the jury phase, you really had found a new duo in Amanda. So talk a little bit about your relationship with Amanda, and was Amanda that new final two ride or die for you, or was that more of a temporary situation that you kind of latched onto?
Yeah, I liked Amanda and Roxanne right off the bat and instantly connected with them and reached out to them. And then there was a phase where we got kind of separated from each other just because people were lying in their ears saying that we were saying to evict them, and that might have been Chris. It definitely wasn't me. But yeah, I reconnected with them as soon as we Chris and I realized we were in danger and that they were playing Roxanne and I the same way as newbies as well. And so we connected on that, and she was my new final two after Chris got evicted. But I knew she would be a big jury threat, so I wouldn't have been afraid to cut her if need be. So I'm glad I wasn't the one to have to do it and that we got so far together.
Yeah. So coming into tonight, I suppose, at the Final Four, you couldn't compete for HOH. Did you feel like you were in a lot of danger? Did you think that like, obviously you had the POV to compete for, but I guess thinking about being on the block tonight, if that were to happen,
Mhm.
how safe did you feel versus not safe, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I felt, I don't know, I felt pretty up in the air, honestly, because I felt like I could make it work potentially, depending on who won POV. I felt like there were different ways I could go about it to make it work, but it was all very circumstantial. So uh, it's okay. I'm not too surprised that this happened.
And going forward from here, obviously we have our final three in place, and you and the rest of the jury will find out on finale night who gets third place. And then, of course, you all get to vote for a winner. Um, who do you predict at this point is going to end up in the
Mhm.
final two, and who's going to get cut for third then?
Um, I predict LJ and Taisha will be final two, and Jenny will be cut for the third person, is my prediction.
And in that scenario, who do you think would cut Jenny? Do you think Taisha would cut Jenny, LJ, both of them? What's your kind of mindset on who? Maybe a better question would be
Mhm.
who of the three people left, if they all had to decide who to take with them, like go through the three people left, who do you think they all want to take with them? That's probably a better question.
Yeah, I think LJ and Jenny would probably take each other most likely. And I think Taisha would probably take LJ over Jenny, most likely.
And who do you think, again, obviously you haven't spoken to the jury quite yet, who do you think the jury respects the most out of the three people left? Who do you think is the one to beat?
Taisha. And yeah, that was part of my pitch to keep me, but didn't work. So
And is that the same for you? Is that who you respect the most? Or kind of what is your order right now of who you would vote for from first to last?
I don't know. As far as like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like Jenny needs to own her game more for me to be able to respect her game more. She doesn't have confidence, it seems like, right now in having a winning game. So just because of that, I would say Taisha or LJ. Mhm.
And no preference between the two of them right now. You got some
No,
time, so
I think it really just depends on what their final case is and how they plead it.
understood. All
Mhm.
right. Should we get to your goodbye message? We have one from one of the final three for you.
Sure.
Here we go. Can you see this?
Yes. Hmm.
All right.
You have to keep playing these and like in this format and like don't stop. Your first game, you're fucking amazing. You're good at like you're the epitome triple threat in this game. You've been by far the best player. You played exactly the game I wanted to play, but better than me because you're better at comps, and I think people also like you more. I like, please, please keep going. We are beyond lucky just as a community that Chris walked, to be honest, because I think people would have fucked up and tried to fuck you over that early in the game. Um, Everything, like you did everything this game. You've been a like you've been like an A minus to A ally, which considering how far apart we were at times is fucking amazing. It's been a blast working with you and getting to know you. Please keep doing these. I really hope I see you around the community. You are fucking awesome. Mad respect.
On that message?
What about it?
Thoughts on that message?
Oh, I appreciate LJ. Yes. Um, and I agree with everything he says. So he's right.
All right. Well, final thoughts before we send you off to jury, reflections on this crazy experience as your first game.
um, I've had um I've had a lot of ups and downs playing this game. But it was pretty fun overall. So I feel like I made some good connections. And I probably will continue to play some games here or there, but probably take a break. So
Well, thank you so much for playing. I know that for anyone in the community, whenever you apply to a game, you're taking a risk and hoping that it pays off. And for this to be your first game, for you to choose us and take that risk with us, I really, really appreciate it so much. And I enjoyed watching you, and I can't wait for finale on Friday when we can talk about everything openly with you guys and let you know all the amazing stuff that happened and our true thoughts. And just, I cannot thank you enough for playing. It was such a joy to have you.
thank you. And you all did a really good job too, I think.
Marissa. I'll send you off to the jury now, and you can feel
Um,
free to chat with all of them and let them know your thoughts on the game.
all right, sounds good.